Welcome back to Beyond the Veil. This is our deep dive where we really get into the sources, looking for those insights that can, well, make a difference. Today, we're focusing on guidance from Master Psychic Spiritwalker, who's the founder of Starseed Psychics. And he suggests something pretty profound, that the key to real wisdom isn't about finding the perfect teacher out there. It's about finding yourself.
Exactly. We're digging into his article. It's called The Call of the Oracle, Listening to the Voice Within. Our whole mission here is to unpack what he means by accessing that internal wisdom we all supposedly have.
Right. And the promise he makes is, honestly, quite striking. He says we already have this ability to channel wisdom, that the greatest guidance is already within, which makes you wonder.
Why we're always looking outside. Yeah.
Exactly. If it's our birthright, why are we so exhausted searching through books, looking for gurus, validating everything externally?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And that's what this deep dive is really about. Spiritwalker talks about activating this ancient birthright. We seem trapped, kind of frantically seeking truth everywhere but within. Scrolling, reading, listening, just noise. So the idea is to cut through that noise, switch on that inner oracle, and learn to actually trust that spiritual current that's always flowing through you.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. For anyone listening who's maybe new to this idea, what exactly is the Oracle, according to Master Spiritwalker?
Yeah, good question. He's very clear it's not some separate entity or, a mystical voice booming from the heavens. He calls it the higher current of your consciousness.
What a current, okay.
Which is basically, he says, the purest part of your spirit that remembers why you came here. Think of it like your original blueprint before all the conditioning and fear piled on top.
He uses that lovely metaphor, too, the whisper that calls you home. But, the skeptic in me immediately asks, how do we know this inner voice isn't just wishful thinking or confirmation bias, just telling ourselves what we want to hear?
That's a really important point, and Spiritwalker tackles it by talking about the quality of the communication. This whisper, it isn't loud or demanding. It's quiet. It feels familiar. It has this specific resonance. He points out it's the same kind of subtle knowing that guided mystics and prophets ages ago.
Yes.
It doesn't shout over the noise. It speaks in the silence between the noise. And the key thing, it is you, your deeper self. So unlike the ego, which just wants comfort and safety, this voice is working for your actual highest alignment.
Okay, so if it's this pure, inherent voice, why is it so darn hard to hear sometimes? My default is definitely needing proof, wanting that certainty before I make a move.
And Spiritwalker says that's the exact block, the need for certainty. He actually says listening to the inner oracle requires something quite radical.
Yeah.
You have to surrender that need. Give it up, because wanting a guaranteed outcome, that keeps us stuck, spiritually paralyzed, you could say. The intuitive self, it works with possibilities, with connections, with leaps. Certainty demands step-by-step proof, which just shuts down intuitive insights before they can even surface.
Wow.
So to really hear the oracle, you've got to trust that what comes up in your heart, that feeling, is there for a reason, even if you can't see the whole path yet.
That really reframes certainty, doesn't it? Not as helpful, but as a kind of spiritual obstacle.
Exactly.
So if this inner voice isn't using clear language, like we're talking now, if it's bypassing that logical brain, how do we even start to recognize it? Consistently, I mean.
It's more about feeling.
Rhythm.
Resonance. It's very physical, very visceral. It might show up as like a sudden feeling of lightness in your chest when you think about one choice, or a really deep, kind of unsettling heaviness about another choice.
Right.
It's that subtle nudge saying, yeah, go this way, or that deep gut feeling whispering, hold on, not yet. And this often happens way before your mind can even build a logical argument for it. So you have to pay attention to your body's response, not just the chatter in your head.
Okay, that makes sense. And that leads us perfectly into the really practical stuff in Spiritwalker's article, the techniques for strengthening that inner hearing. For anyone listening who's thinking, right, I want to actually do this, he gives 4 methods. Let's maybe spend some time on the first 2, which seem focused on grounding yourself. So technique number 1. It sounds so simple, but maybe the hardest for us busy modern folks. Sit with stillness. He suggests starting each day with just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of quiet. No agenda, just breathing, just being present.
Yeah, and 5 minutes is actually, it's a really smart starting point. It works on an energetic level. Spiritwalker points out that the oracle speaks in the spaces between thoughts. When our minds are just racing to-do lists, worries, plans, those subtle gaps for information just vanish. 5 minutes is often just enough time to create those little neurological, energetic pauses where that subtle rhythm can actually break through.
Okay, but let's be real. Some days, sitting still feels impossible. What about when I sit down and my brain is just a screaming mess of thoughts? How do I stop that?
Ah, so you don't try to stop it. That's the key, maybe the trick. Spirit Walker emphasizes presence, not trying to achieve some perfect blank state. If the mind's noisy, just observe the noise. Watch it without judging it. Just by witnessing it, you create a bit of distance, a separation. And that separation, that space, is what the oracle needs to be heard.
That's a helpful way to think about it. Okay, the second technique seems to build right on that presence, write what you hear. He calls this keeping a channel journal.
Yeah. Exactly. So when you're in that stillness, or maybe just going about your day, and suddenly an intuitive phrase pops in, or an image, or just a sudden knowing, he says, grab that journal and write it down immediately. Don't censor it. The power here is sort of twofold. First, it physically stops your rational mind from jumping in and saying, oh, that's silly, or editing it away. And second, over time, as you look back through the journal, he says it starts to reveal your guide's unique language of light. You see the pattern.
So it acts like proof against that nagging feeling of, I'm just making this up, because that comes up a lot for people.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
The journal becomes your evidence. You start to see, oh, wow, that symbol keeps showing up, or that specific feeling always comes with this kind of guidance. Or maybe there's an unusual turn of phrase that isn't how you normally think or speak.
Yeah.
You begin to recognize the, let's say, the fingerprint of your intuition. It helps you sort the signal from the background noise, making that subtle language feel much more real and undeniable as you track it over time. Now, actually sticking with this practice, consistently creating those quiet moments and then recognizing that unique language, that can be the tough part. These times we live in are just so fast-paced, so full of distractions.
They really are. The pressure is constant, isn't it? To keep up, stay connected. Yeah. It makes that kind of surrender feel almost impossible sometimes.
And Spirit Walker gets that. He acknowledges that while you're working hard, really intensely focusing on building this inner listening muscle, there are going to be times when the silence feels overwhelming, or self-doubt creeps in hard, or you just really need an objective perspective.
Right. Sometimes you just need a bit of external backup.
Precisely. And for those moments when you feel like you need that sanctuary, or maybe just some scaffolding while you build your own inner trust, we do encourage you to check out the resources at Starseed Psychics.
Well, the ultimate aim is definitely to rely on your own inner voice. Getting some external support can really provide clarity and validation along the way. It helps you keep going while you're developing that trust muscle. For example, if you're collecting things in your journal symbols, feelings, and you're looking for maybe ongoing structured help to understand them, we offer quite a few ways to get support. We have 10 different types of psychic subscriptions and also 9 types of psychic reading bundles. These cover everything from, say, clairvoyant readings and tarot guidance to more shamanic approaches. You can find all those specialized options right there on the website. They're there as a trusted resource you can lean on while you're internalizing Spirit Walker's deeper work.
Yeah, having that trusted external sounding board can really help you check in, maybe refine how you're interpreting things, and just make sure you feel confident moving forward, especially when you hit those inevitable patches of internal static or doubt.
Okay, perfect. So let's get back to Master Spirit Walker's final 2 techniques. These seem more about engaging with the world around us to hear the voice within. Technique number 3. Listen to nature's rhythm.
Oh, this one's crucial because it forces us out of our own heads, out of the purely human-made world. Spirit Walker suggests actually spending time outside, heart open, just allowing the elements, the wind, water, earth, even fire if you have a campfire, allowing them to communicate. Nature speaks a different language, doesn't it? It's all tempo, energy, metaphor. It kind of bypasses all the mental boxes we usually rely on indoors.
So by taking away the words, we're forced back into that more physical, resonance-based communication you mentioned earlier, feeling the message before we analyze it.
Exactly that. The wind might not literally tell you, quit your job, but you might feel a sudden sense of release or maybe urgency. By just aligning your own rhythm with the rhythm of the cosmos, even for a little while, you remind your body of its natural, unforced pace. And that can make the oracle's quieter whisper much easier to pick up on.
And then the 4th technique sounds like a great tool for when you have a specific issue you're wrestling with. Ask and wait. Spirit Walker advises, right before you fall asleep, to ask your higher self or your guides one single, clear question. And the key, once again, seems to be that surrender. Just trusting that whatever comes back, maybe a dream, a symbol you wake up with, or just a clear feeling in the morning, that will be the guidance you need.
Yes, this really taps into the power of our subconscious mind. When we sleep, that conscious sensor, the inner editor that demands proof and logic, it quiets down. Asking a question right in that transition phase allows your intuition to work without that interference. It can deliver the answer in a more pure, often symbolic form. Then you can use your journal later to help decode it. It's really profound act of trust, isn't it? Trusting the universe will provide wisdom when you're most open and, well, vulnerable.
Speaking of trust and surrender, we have to talk about something that trips up almost everyone on this path: the silence. What happens when you're doing all the techniques, you're journaling, you're sitting in stillness, and you hear nothing? Just silence.
Ah, yes. The sacred pauses, as
Yeah.
Spiritwalker calls them. He's very specific. These are not an absence of guidance. They're actually times for deep integration.
That's such an important distinction because most of us immediately think, I've lost the connection or I'm doing it wrong. We take silence as failure.
Right. But he offers this really powerful perspective. Sometimes spirit, or your higher self, intentionally draws back its voice. Why? So that you are forced to learn to trust your own wisdom, your own discernment, based on the guidance you've already received. It's kind of like learning to ride a bike, you know. The
Yeah.
training wheels are there, the support is there, until suddenly it's time to prove you can actually balance on your own. So if you're in one of those silent periods right now, he encourages you to see it not as abandonment, but as a test of your own growing self-trust. Just breathe through it, integrate what you've learned, and try to be patient. The voice returns.
That's really comforting, actually. Okay, so what's the ultimate goal here? Where does all this practice lead? Spirit Walker calls it the path of the living oracle. What does that even mean to become a living transmission?
It means moving beyond just receiving guidance and actually stepping into being the guidance for others just through your presence. Spiritwalker explains it as living in a way where you speak your truth consistently, maybe you write from spirit, you act from that aligned place, and you recognize you're never actually disconnected from source energy. Then, every authentic thing you do, every creative act, every genuine conversation, it becomes a clear transmission of that divine wisdom flowing through you. You essentially become a conduit.
So the way you live your life becomes, like, readable. Others can pick up on that truth just by being around you if you're authentic.
Precisely. His final thought in the article really sums it up beautifully. He says, when you listen that deeply and live from that place, your life itself literally becomes prophecy, a living message that others can read, understand, and maybe even be inspired by. Just from your presence, it really elevates the significance of every single conscious choice we make, doesn't it?
It really does. And that idea, that powerful connection, the call to speak and write truth, but also to observe the truth in the world around us, that leads us perfectly to Master Spirit Walker's own published work. If this whole idea of decoding subtle truths really resonates with you, then you absolutely need to check out his ebook. It's called The Art of Reading People.
Yes, and this book is where you really see Spirit Walker's unique genius in action, fusing the deeply spiritual with the incredibly practical and grounded. He takes his profound intuitive gifts and merges them directly with the very systematic discipline he learned from advanced military counterintelligence training, all focused on decoding nonverbal communication.
Wait, military counterintelligence? That sounds intense. How does that kind of precision translate to psychic awareness? Seems like different worlds.
Well, think about it. Counterintelligence demands really sharp, dispassionate observation. Noticing tiny details, recognizing patterns, often under pressure, and not just relying on a vague gut feeling. Spirit Walker teaches you how to apply that same kind of rigorous discipline to reading the energetic and emotional signals people are constantly sending out, whether they realize it or not. The book trains you to spot micro-expressions, tiny shifts in body language, inconsistencies between words and tone, all those subtle cues that reveal what's really going on underneath. And then, crucially, how to connect those observations back to your own intuitive resonance, that oracle voice. It's like awareness training that turns those subtle nudges into more actionable intelligence. It sharpens your communication skills and your psychic perception at the exact same time.
Wow. So whether you're aiming to be more effective professionally or maybe deepen your personal intuitive gifts by learning to read that subtle prophecy in the people around you, the art of reading people sounds like a really unique blend. Spiritual depth meets practical discipline.
It really is.
You can find the link to purchase the ebook right there in the description below this deep dive. Definitely worth checking out. Ultimately, though, Master Spirit Walker's core message, his closing transmission in the article, it feels like a profound invitation for right now. He says the call of the oracle is rising. All across the globe, more and more people are being invited to remember that voice that, as he puts it, sings from the soul.
It really is an invitation, isn't it? An invitation to stop searching so hard outside yourself for validation and instead to start trusting, writing from, speaking from that authentic source that's already within you. So here's maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over after this deep dive. If your life itself becomes a living prophecy just by listening and speaking your truth, what message do you think the world needs you to transmit right now?